On Friday, the San Antonio Spurs welcome back Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson to the lineup. And the Spurs fell behind by 17. They came back and got a 10-point lead. And then in the end, the Clippers held on with Devin Vassell on a minutes restriction. So the Spurs lost this game on Friday evening at home against the Los Angeles Clippers by 7 points. Let's go and get into a quick recap of this game. And as you can see here, it was a roller coaster of a game for both teams here. So the Clippers came out, as the aggressors. They had an early run where they put together a 19-2 run for first quarter. As you can see, midway through the first, they were up by 10. Then at the end of the first quarter, it's Clippers by 10. They were shooting well from the three-point line. They were a +9 at the three-point line. Second quarter, they're still playing well for those first 6 minutes, but then Devin Vassell really goes off for San Antonio. He has 17 points in the second quarter. I mean, in the half, should I say. Devin puts 10 points in the second quarter, and he has 17 at the half on perfect shooting, 7-7 from the floor. I wrote here that he was getting his own shot going in, but then he was also creating for his teammates. And the Spurs fell behind by as many as 17 points in that first half, but they did erase that lead for the Clippers, and they end up going into halftime with a 4-point lead. So San Antonio's up by 4. In the third quarter, San Antonio starts playing, even better. Those first 6 minutes, they go up by 10 points. The Clippers were really struggling to finish in the paint against the Spurs. They were just mainly relying on a lot of jumpers. In the third quarter alone, Devin Vassell at one point gets to tying his to breaking his career high in scoring with 24 points. So he gets his scoring number all the way up to 24 there in the third quarter, and so he has a new career high. But the Clippers do battle back, and by the end of the third, it's a 4-point game with the Spurs in the lead. Then in the fourth quarter, Devin Vassell only played for 3 minutes, and he was on a roll there. I mean, he had 5 points in just 3 minutes for San Antonio. And then as soon as Coach Pop took him out with about 9 minutes left in the game, the Spurs' offense really just started to struggle. They really couldn't do much against the Clippers' half-court defense. The Clippers, especially Paul George and John Wall, really got going in that fourth quarter. And so as you can see, the Clippers have a 3-point lead by the midway point. And then the game gets to crunch time, which is a 5-point game with 5 minutes left. But the Clippers do hold on kind of comfortably. It wasn't too much of a pressure situation for them. And they ended up getting the 7-point win. Now, after the game, Coach Pop did say that Devin Vassell was on a minutes restriction. That's why he had to take him out of the game with 9 minutes left. And the reason for that is because the Spurs have a back-to-back in Denver. And so Pop said in order for Devin to play both nights, they had to have him on a minutes restriction because he had just come back in this first game after missing multiple games due to injury. So as we look at the leading scorers, obviously you can see there, Devin Vassell puts up a new career high 29 points. Just really aggressive, attacking the Clippers defense with 14 points in the paint. Also, the leading 3-point shooter for the Spurs here with 12 points from the 3 points of 4 makes. He got a free throw. So again, career high 29 points for Devin Vassell on a minutes restriction. So he was really efficient. We'll talk about that here in a bit. Trey Jones was strong with his scoring, and his 3-point shooting continues to improve with 18 points and 9 of his points from the 3-point line. Keldon Johnson returned after having to miss one game due to injury. He ends up with 16 points, 8 points in the paint, 6 points from the 3-point line. Doug McDermott off the bench there with 10 points. 6 points from 3. And then Malachi Branham, the rookie, he actually started this game because the Spurs brought Devin Vassell off the bench, to kind of ease him back into the rotation. For the Clippers, it was really Paul George, especially in that fourth quarter. Paul George really played well for the Clippers. He ends up with 35 points, scoring all across the board. Ivica Zubac also got going there in the fourth. The Clippers were finding him underneath the rim, and he was getting multiple dunk attempts. So he ends up with 17 points, 16 of his points in the paint. And then John Wall had a pretty strong game for the Clippers. One of the notes that I wanted to note is that Spurs did win the paint by 12 points, but it wasn't enough because the Clippers not only won both jumper areas, they won the mid-range and the 3-point line by 9 points, but they also won the free throw line barely by 4 points. So that was enough for them to hold on to that 7-point win. As far as the Spurs' standout players, like I mentioned, Trey had a good game here, 18 points, 6 assists. Devin Vassell, again, was on a minutes restriction, but he was very efficient. As you can see there, he ends up scoring over a point per minute, 1.16 points per minute for Devin. So 29 points in 25 minutes. And then Keldon had a 16 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. You see Pirtle there with 4 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. And then down the line, as you can see there with the numbers, I'm going to put 2 defense there. As far as shot locations, again, the Clippers didn't attack the paint that much. The Spurs won the paint, but when they did go in the paint, they scored so well. I mean, the Clippers only missed 7 paint shots, 22 of 29, 76%. They also shot well from 3. That's something that Spurs opponents haven't been doing as much this season, but the Clippers did. They made 15 threes. They shoot 45% from the 3-point line. And then for San Antonio, one of the big areas, they scored well in the paint, as you can see here, 60% they made their shots. They shot decently from 3. Their volume wasn't as high because they were taking so many shots in the paint. But the one stat that's going to be key for them, the fact that they lost a close game, was their free throw shooting. They only made 56% of their free throws, and when it's a 7-point game, a single-digit game, that's a number you really look at toward the end. And it was more so, like I said, two kind of styles in this game. It was more the Spurs attacking in the paint versus the Clippers, who were really relying on jumpers. And on this night, the jumpers ended up kind of winning out here with that by 15 points. Is what the Clippers won in that battle. And then, points off turnovers pretty even, so were fast break scored. Nothing too detailed there. All right, so now that there's been 9 games for the Spurs, what kind of stood out for them? The good things on offense for them, they scored 56 paint points. That was a lot for San Antonio. Sorry, I got to drink some tea here. Throat's a little dry here tonight. All right, anyway. 60% accuracy for the Spurs. That was a season high. So again, their best mark so far in this early season. So they made 60% of their paint shots. 13 turnovers. That's a good improvement for this team, because they entered tonight dead last in the league in most turnovers per game. So that's been a big issue for this team, especially in that most recent game against Toronto. So again, that ties their season low for San Antonio, just 13 turnovers on offense. The bad, where they really struggled, like I mentioned, the 56% free throw accuracy was kind of hurt them in a very close game. Also, the ball movement, the Clippers did a good job of really making the Spurs, when they did get points, it was a lot more one-on-one kind of scoring. It wasn't a lot of scoring that comes off assists. So they only had 23 assists, which is low for them, for San Antonio, and also just 55% assist percentage. Those are two categories where they're number one in the league entering this game. They also had 6 offensive rebounds, which is a little low, and then because the Clippers won the 3-point line, the Spurs are now 0-3 when they do lose the 3-point line in this early season. As far as what stood out on defense, they held the much improved defense compared to that Toronto game. The Spurs did a much better job here. They held the Clippers below 30 points in 3 of the 4 quarters. There was just one quarter where the Clippers scored over 30. And then also they held the Clips to just 44 paint points, which is now a season low for a Spurs opponent. So again, even though the Clippers were very efficient in the paint, at least the Spurs, they held them to at least 44 points when they did get in there. The bad is the Spurs still haven't been able to get a win after they fall behind by 10 or 15 points. They're now 0-4 when that happens. The Clippers are one of those teams like the Wolves in one of the games in Minnesota, where the Clippers were very good from the 3-point line. They scored 45 points from 3, and also they shot 45% from the 3-point line. That was an issue for San Antonio, and a big reason why they lost the 3-point line. And then lastly, the Clippers finished with 76% accuracy in the paint, like I mentioned earlier, which is an opponent season high. So even though they didn't take a lot of shots in the paint, when they did, they were very efficient shots, and that was a big mark for the Clippers. Up next, the Spurs go back on the road. They're going to be in Denver to close out this week. It's the second night of back-to-back. The Nuggets enter at 5-3. So, right now, Coach Pop did mention that Devin should be able to play this game, because he was on a minutes restriction in this first game. And also, he mentioned that Isaiah Roby might also rejoin the team. He's been out for a few games with flu-like symptoms. So, for Project Spurs, I am Paul Garcia.